Welcome to episode 134 of Build Your House Yourself University by BYHYU. I'm your host and fellow student, Michelle Nelson, and together we'll learn the basics of home design and construction and demystify the building process so we can better communicate with contractors and build quality dream homes with or without a general contractor. Uncontrolled moisture in the forms of liquid water and water vapor are huge enemies of any home. If not controlled, moisture can cause heating and cooling inefficiencies, resulting in an uncomfortable house and higher utility bills. Uncontrolled moisture can also lead to rot, mold, structural damage, and poor air quality. What specific methods you use to control moisture will depend on the climate in your region and the design and construction of your home. This week, we'll go over some moisture control strategies that will work for the majority of us, but always consult with local contractors to make sure these strategies will work for your project. The information in this episode comes primarily from the U.S. government's website, energy.gov, and one of my favorite websites, energyvanguard.com. Let's get right into it. Moisture, in the form of water vapor, moves in and out of our homes in three ways. Number 1, through the air. Number 2, through and along with heat. And number 3, through materials. Air movement, by far, accounts for the vast majority of water vapor movement within a house. Air naturally moves from areas of high air pressure to areas of lower air pressure. Together, air and its companion, moisture, will move through any available hole or crack in the building envelope. Carefully air sealing any holes, cracks, or pathways where there is potential unintended air movement through the house is one of the most effective ways to control moisture. Your HVAC professionals, framers, plumbers, and other contractors should be diligent in sealing any holes or cracks that would let in unwanted airflow. A home energy rater can arrange a blower door test that will identify unintended holes so you can properly seal them. Other ways of controlling moisture include decreasing the movement of outside and inside moisture through materials and controlling moisture that accompanies heat flow. Most building materials that we use to construct our homes will naturally slow the transfer of heat and moisture to some degree. For example, brick, exterior wall sheathing, insulation, and drywall all obviously play a major role in reducing heat and moisture transfer. But moisture is best controlled by taking extra steps beyond simply erecting those basic construction materials. To manage moisture, we should strive to have better control of our home's temperature, specifically heat. Warm air holds more moisture than colder air can. So if you can control the amount of heat that moves into and out of your home, you can better manage moisture. If we don't control the amount of heat that enters and exits our homes, we may have trouble with moisture in the form of condensation, where water vapor turns to liquid water droplets. Let me briefly explain condensation. The temperature and moisture concentrations at which water vapor begins to condense is called the dew point. Think about water vapor turning to dew. Once air has reached its dew point, excess moisture in the air condenses on the first cold surface it encounters. We can sometimes see condensation on our cold window surfaces, but if the coldest surface is within the home's exterior wall cavity, the condensation can settle inside the wall. This can result in wet insulation and framing, which can lead to mold and rot. Condensation within the exterior wall cavity can also lead to poorly functioning insulation and, as a result, increased heating and cooling bills and discomfort within your home. So, to manage moisture, we've learned that we need to, number 1, control air leakage, and number 2, control unwanted heat flow. The last of the 3 major things we need to address to control moisture is controlling the movement of air vapor itself through materials. Properly installed vapor diffusion retarders, which used to be called vapor barriers, can be used in most of the U.S. to reduce the amount of moisture transfer. A vapor diffusion retarder is a material that reduces the rate at which water vapor can move through building materials. White house wrap and the green zip system are commonly seen covering the exterior of new construction homes, and they're examples of vapor diffusion retarders. Except in deliberately ventilated spaces, insulation and vapor diffusion retarders work together to reduce the opportunity for condensation in a home's ceilings, walls, and floors. Specific materials used as vapor diffusion retarders might vary depending on your climate, but no matter where you are, you'll want a vapor diffusion retarder included on your home. So, to control moisture, we need to, number 1, reduce air leakage, number 2, reduce unwanted heat flow, and number 3, reduce the movement of water vapor through building materials. Now, let's talk about a few specific things that many of us can do to control moisture on our foundations and walls. Moisture problems can develop anywhere, but are especially prone to develop where the house is below grade, meaning anywhere the house contacts the ground, whether that's a basement, crawl space, or a slab foundation. To create an energy-efficient and comfortable living space in your basement, you'll need to insulate, as well as properly control moisture. Most basement water leakage and moisture problems result from water flowing through holes and cracks in the basement walls and/or water coming through the porous building materials used to construct the basement, such as concrete. With new construction, there are a few things we can do to manage moisture around the foundation. Although specific moisture control methods can vary depending on your climate, the following measures can be taken in most circumstances. Number 1, make sure no untreated wood has direct contact with the ground. Untreated wood can absorb water from the ground and transfer that moisture to other building materials. Number 2, install a gutter system that's connected to a drainage system so that it can direct rainwater away from your house. To learn more about gutter systems, take a listen to episode 114 called If Your Mind is in the Gutter, Good for You. Number 3, make sure the ground around your house slopes away from all sides of the house for at least 5 feet at a minimum grade of 5%. Let me repeat that. Make sure the ground around your house slopes away from all sides of the house for at least 5 feet at a minimum grade of 5%. You can talk to your builder or excavator about this. Number 4, add a foam gasket under your sill plate. Okay, let me explain. A sill plate, also known as a sole plate, is the bottom horizontal piece of lumber that sits on the foundation. Vertical wall studs attached to the sill plate. That horizontal sill plate is anchored to the concrete foundation. But there should be thin foam material called a gasket between the sill plate and the foundation, so the wood sill plate is not in direct contact with the concrete. The foam gasket will help stop moisture from wicking up from the concrete up into the wood sill plate. Number 5, to be extra diligent, you can also seal the vertical area where the sill plate and the foundation come together using rubberized materials such as liquid sealant or tape. This is sometimes called sealing the sill. Taking these steps not only controls moisture, but also decreases air leakage and helps to keep insects and other pests outside your house. Take a look at the show notes for examples of a sill seal. Number 6, damp-proof or waterproof all below-grade portions of the foundation to prevent the wall from absorbing ground moisture. Number 7, place a continuous drainage plane, sometimes called a water-resistant barrier, over the foundation's damp-proofing or exterior insulation. The drainage plane will direct water away from the foundation into the foundation drain. Number 8, install a foundation drain directly below the drainage plane and beside, not on top of, the footing. Number 9, beneath the basement or slab floor, install a layer polyethylene or similar material over at least 4 inches of gravel to reduce moisture transfer from the ground. Contractors in your area may use a slightly different method, but the point is to stop ground moisture from wicking up into the foundation. And number 10, if you have a crawl space, you can install a polyethylene vapor diffusion retardant, which looks like a thin piece of plastic. You can install that across the crawl space floor to prevent soil moisture from coming up into the crawl space. Overlap all seams by 12 inches and then tape them. Then extend and seal the polyethylene 6 inches up on the crawl space walls. Okay, finally, let's go over 3 strategies for controlling moisture in our home's walls. Number 1, install a vapor barrier, aka vapor diffusion retardant, such as house wrap or the zip system. Number 2, ask for a rain screen to be installed behind your exterior cladding. Simply put, a rain screen is just an air gap behind your exterior cladding or siding, whether that's vinyl siding, stucco, brick, or stone. The rain screen also includes air gaps at the top and at the bottom of the exterior walls. This allows the siding to stand away from the vapor diffusion retardant that covers the house. The rain screen allows drainage and evaporation of any moisture that gets behind the siding. And number 3, add caulking, liquid sealants, weather stripping, or flashing, which is just thin waterproof material. Add any of those to all exterior wall openings, such as windows, doors, or areas where there's exterior plumbing or electrical boxes. Now, what about controlling moisture on the roof? Energy.gov doesn't give specific suggestions about how to control moisture on the roof. I think that's because strategies for controlling moisture and condensation on the roof is so dependent on your climate, the design and slope of your roof, and the type of roofing material that your house will have. It's best to consult your builder, a home energy rater, or local roofer about the specifics of roof moisture control in your region. If you're planning to build a tight building envelope with minimal air leakage, and that's what you should be planning, then you'll want to have a ventilation system installed, which will bring fresh air in and take stale air out. And proper ventilation is also a part of an effective moisture control strategy. We'll talk more about ventilation systems in next week's episode. Let's end with a couple of quiz questions. But before we do, let me remind you that if you find this podcast helpful, you can subscribe to the show so new episodes are automatically downloaded to your device. This is especially important if you're new to the podcast and might have trouble remembering our name or release date. All right, ready for your quiz? Question number 1. To manage moisture in our homes, we should A. Control air leakage. B. Control unwanted heat flow. C. Control movement of water vapor through materials. Or D. All of the above. The answer is D. All of the above. And number 2. Which of the following specific strategies can we use to help control moisture in our homes? A. Seal all unwanted holes, cracks, and pathways with caulking, flashing, liquid sealants, and weather stripping. B. Add a foam gasket between the sill plate and the foundation. C. Add a properly installed gutter system. D. Add a rain screen behind exterior cladding. E. All of the above. I bet you know this one. It's E. All of the above. Well, that's it for me this week. Thanks for listening. I hope you learned as much as I did. And I hope you'll come back next week for another episode of Build Your House Yourself University. BYHYU. Please remember that the purpose of this podcast is simply to educate and inform. It's not a substitute for professional advice. The information that you hear is based only on the opinions, research, and experiences of my guests and myself. That information might be incomplete, it's subject to change, and it may not apply to your project. In addition, building codes and requirements vary from region to region, so always consult a professional about specific recommendations for your home.